Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good day. Welcome to Frank's Corner. Well, I just spent a lot of time watching the Bondi hearing. So, what was probably the most evident about what's going on is uh, you have the Democrats wanting to talk about the Epstein files. The Republicans want no part of that conversation at all, so they're sticking with immigration and law enforcement and, talking about the national crime figures and how it's the lowest since 1900 at 4.0. Granted, I'm going to have to agree. It actually is. But what I don't agree with is that Donald Trump's the reason, because actually it's not. I had to look up some statistics myself, bear with me, but I believe that, if I'm correct, crime rate has been steadily falling, and I mean steadily, since the pandemic. I mean, that's pretty much it. So I'm trying to get to all the notes that I different things I screenshotted because it was a lot. There's a lot about the crime rate and violent crimes, non-violent crimes. But okay, I want to go back to. All right, if we look at the crime rate from Bill Clinton to Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden, because I'd like to do those four in comparison. Clinton oversaw the largest consistent drop in crime. And then Barack had hit some historic lows during the first term in 2014. It hit a 40-year low. His last 2 years, it kind of slightly increased with a lot of homicides in specific cities, but it doesn't give the cities. Under Trump, violent crime continued to fall during the first 3 years, reaching 380.8 in 2019. However, in 2020, saw the largest single year increase in homicides in the United States, nearly 30% during the COVID 19 pandemic civil unrest. All right, Joe Biden's crime continued to fall during his first 3 years, reaching 30.8 in 2019. However, 2020, that's Donald Trump, I'm sorry. Let's go back. Joe Biden, after the 2020 spike in violent crime rates, began a steady decline. By the late 2024 data indicates that both violent and property crimes had returned to or dropped below pre-pandemic levels. Basically, if you go by the presidents, if you go by the presidents, Bill Clinton was down 32%, Obama about 8%, Donald Trump plus 1%, and Biden negative 6%. That's the rates. Now, again, we do have an average low coming right now. The problem is we were already in a decline anyways. It's been on a steady decline for years, so can't really say some president is the reason why the crime rate's so low. But this is where the Republicans definitely wanted to spend their time. And it's kind of funny, a lot of the highest crime rate drops are in democratically ran cities. Baltimore, New York, Denver, those are both democratically ran cities, not Republican. So it goes against what they're saying is the Democratic cities have the highest crime rate. Actually, it's not. Republican cities have the highest crime rate. I just want to get that out of the way just while I'm thinking about it, because that was a big factor for the Republican Party, and they all avoided Trump. Pam Pam Bondi. Let's see. Any question about Trump directly? She redirected and tried to pull out something else. So it's quite evident. And then when someone brought up the fact that three of his cabinet members are also on that list, and they're not investigating those three members. She was trying to say, well, we are, but no, she's not. She lies, and again, you can blatantly tell when she's going to lie because she'll start spouting out something else instead of answering simple questions. Because they were giving her some simple questions, she had some simple questions to answer. You know, is this yes or no type questions, and that's not what she wanted to do. She wanted to go back and start spouting out other stuff. It doesn't really matter what was done in the past. This is a fact. Yeah, people dropped the ball in the past, but this is supposedly an administration that wanted to get all the truth out about Epstein. Yet they don't really care about the truth. They only care about who democratically they can fry with it, and they'll protect every Republican they can. This is kind of how this breaks down. And I'm amazed that the woman could sit up there and lie so much. I'm not even sure that I could. That's just, and she'll start laughing when people ask her something specific. People play Donald Trump on Epstein Island in a video, and she still denies it. And there was a lot of underage girls at the party, and although Trump denies it, she still denies it. Even when you're looking at a video on the screen, the victims that were involved with this data dump, that apparently they redacted the criminals but not the victims out of the list, were there to also stand up and air their grievances, and I can understand their grievances. They were victims. Donald Trump is one of the perpetrators, along with his cabinet staff, along with Pam Bondi, who's trying to hide the fact that he's a perpetrator. They brought up Bill Clinton. I think Bill Clinton them said they'll testify already, but they want everything out on the open, and they'll do it in a public setting. But the Democrats don't want to do the public setting because Bill Clinton's going to start telling off on Donald Trump. And when that happens, they can't cover it up. Well, they could lie though and say, oh, well, because we got him, he just wants to throw Donald Trump under the bus. That would be pretty much the lie they would tell. But anybody that believes that Donald Trump wasn't involved in this, I'm sorry. Y'all got some issues. But, it was nice. Again, she wanted to attack every single person that asked her about Donald Trump and the Epstein files, or his cabinet members that are, known to be part of the Epstein files. If she's going to persecute them, well, of course she's not. Do you really think? I mean, that'd be a question. I would have sat there and said, well, no use asking if you're going to persecute them. We already know you're not. That would have been the question. And she said, don't tell me I'm lying. One of them flat told her she's committing perjury in her testimony. She's like, don't call me a liar, but she is a liar. I mean, that's like calling the pot calling the kettle black. Hey, don't call me black. You're black too. Hey, come on. That's the kind of funny part. So she did lie. There was a bunch of lies. So much so in the redirect that she was doing, so much so it was getting my blood pressure up. Just listening to her talk and watching the antics she pulled to try to not answer questions, or to, they only get so much time to talk to her, so she's trying to waste that time by speaking over them when she's supposed to keep her fucking mouth closed and just listen and answer the question they ask her. She never answered the question that was asked to her. In some vague forms. Some of the questions got answered in some vague forms, but none of it is actually, yes, I'm going after them. Oh, things are under investigation. Well, she's a fucking Republican dick sucker for Donald Trump, so we already know what that investigation is. It's a nothing. It's nothing at all. So you can kind of hang that up. You ain't going to see any of those Donald Trump or any of his friends and all that on Epstein Island face any consequences with this particular attorney. The one that's supposed to be the highest attorney we have, is supposed to protect the people. She's not interested in protecting the people. She's interested in protecting Donald Trump. That's who she's interested in. And there was one there's one senator I want to get his name, only because he stood out to me for a particular reason. Oh, Michael Brumgartner, Republican, Washington, 5th District. He had the crime rate statistics up. The only problem is he didn't sit there. He wanted to commend them for the work, but the cities that are dropped are Democratic cities where there is no ICE and no FBI right now. You know, he's in Democratic cities that he wants the voters rolls in registration so he can manipulate the vote. But you know, I just want to touch bases with some of the crazy stuff coming out Pam's mouth. Again, she wants to talk about other victims without talking about the right victims. Somebody actually did point out 75% of the people she's arresting have no criminal record whatsoever. But of course, she says, well, we're arresting the worst of the worst. No, you're not. You're arresting some. And then, all in all, Obama had more actual deportations than Donald Trump. Think about this. Without using ICE as a Gestapo, he had more deportations than Donald Trump did. Of course, they want to go back and blame Biden, but Biden's not the problem. Everything with the Republican Party is to deny, deflect, redirect. And Pam Bondi is good at, she's been taking some lessons from Donald Trump. Deny, deflect, redirect. Which is pretty much what she was doing over every fucking body who asked her about the Epstein files and what she plans on doing. She did exactly that. And, you know, I don't even know what the purpose of the hearing was. Of course, every single Republican just stuck on the immigration stuff, you know, crime rates, because none of them really have the balls to actually go after Pam Bondi about, well, you did this shitty. This was done shittily. You know, you let the victim's information out and redacted that. Then they have a list of 31 people that are affiliated with Epstein with only one name removed off the list. What name do you think got removed off the list? Because there is a list. First, there wasn't a list. Now there is a list, and only one name was redacted. Can anybody guess? Come on, can you guess whose name was redacted? If you guessed Donald Trump, you were right, which I find funny. But anyways, I appreciate everybody coming out and listening to me. And thanks for coming to Frank's Corner. And again, I'll shout out to my Bobcats, Texas State. There you go. And we'll have a good rest of your day, everybody. Again, thanks for coming. I appreciate you stopping by. If you don't mind hitting the like button, sharing it, I really would appreciate that. Y'all take care of yourselves and be safe.